The city, dressed in its winter decorations, lived in its usual pre-holiday rhythm. Snowflakes, soft and slow, swirled in the glow of streetlights as if trying to soothe all the rushing people. The streets were bustling. Some were choosing gifts, others hurrying to meetings, and some simply wandering, hoping to breathe in a bit of magic from the cold December air. Emma was among those who were darting about on errands. She was driving her small car, which trembled slightly on the packed snow. The roads were slippery, and every turn required caution. Yet the view outside the window filled her with the gentle mood of winter. Emma loved winter, but hated traffic jams, especially the kind that appeared in the final days of the year. Her route was short, but it stretched out because of an unexpected blockage. To get around it, she turned onto a small street she rarely used. Her mood at that moment was both restless and tense. Too many things were squeezed into the last remaining days, too many thoughts tangled in her mind. She sped up slightly, hoping to quickly pass the deserted stretch of road. But that was exactly where everything happened. A figure suddenly appeared from around the corner. Emma slammed on the brakes, her heart leaping into her throat. The car skidded on the thin layer of ice, but fortunately, stopped just centimeters away from the young man. He froze, as if trying to understand whether he had imagined what just happened. His face looked surprised, but not frightened. Emma exhaled with such relief that it felt as though she had regained the ability to breathe. The guy took a step back, gesturing that everything was fine. Emma's gaze lingered on him for a moment. There was something surprisingly calm in his features, despite the episode that had just occurred. He waved his hand, signaling that she could continue driving, and Emma, drained of strength, simply nodded. She drove on, but for a long time afterward she felt a strange, ticklish excitement inside her. The image of that unexpected encounter of the guy with the warm eyes that seemed to hold all the winter quiet of the city remained in her mind. She didn't even know his name, but the chance meeting had already quietly shifted the course of events. The next morning, the city was covered with a fresh snowfall. Emma walked along the sidewalk, clutching her scarf to her neck, when she happened to see the same little street that had witnessed their strange and slightly frightening meeting the day before. Strangely, the thought of that stranger still lingered in her mind, unclear, but all the more compelling for it. She mentally replayed the moment of sudden breaking, but now, instead of fear, she felt a subtle, almost embarrassing warmth. Turning toward the cafe where she liked to get her morning cappuccino, she noticed a familiar figure at the entrance. Her heart skipped a beat for a split second before she recognized him, the same guy who had nearly become a victim of her unfortunate turn. He held a cup of hot coffee and watched the snowy patterns the wind painted on the shop window. Emma stopped, unsure whether to approach. But he suddenly lifted his gaze and met her eyes. A flicker of recognition crossed his face. He gave a slight smile, as if their meeting were not accidental at all, but rather expected, as though the city itself was nudging them toward each other. Emma felt a soft blush warm her cheeks. She stepped forward, sensing snowflakes melting on her lashes. A quiet, almost weightless understanding settled between them, and although no words were spoken, their absence did not burden the moment. The guy pulled a mitten out of his pocket and gestured toward the cafe, as if inviting her to enter first. The gesture was simple, but there was a gentleness in it that made her smile. That was how she learned his name was Charlie, not through words, but later, when she saw it written on the barista's order slip. And for some reason, at that moment she didn't want this name to disappear from her life as suddenly as it had appeared. They left the cafe nearly at the same time, each holding a warm drink. The city buzzed around them, but inside there was a soft silence, like the kind that settles when snow covers the streets. They walked in the same direction for a while, as if both were afraid to disturb the invisible thread that had first connected them the day before. When their paths finally parted, Emma suddenly realized how much she missed that quiet, cozy company. She hoped fate would give her another chance to cross paths with Charlie, no matter how timid that hope sounded. And it seemed fate was listening. In the days that followed, the city sank deeper into the New Year's atmosphere. Squares were draped in garlands, festive stalls appeared along the streets, and store windows glittered with colourful lights. People prepared for the holiday, and the air was filled with that special sense of wonder that comes only once a year. Emma often thought about Charlie, though she refused to admit it to herself. It felt strange that the person she had almost run over had become the very one she now hoped to see again. Maybe that was the point of unexpected moments. They arrived when least expected. One evening, she went for a stroll through the city centre, enjoying the soft glow of the lights. She wandered slowly, letting her steps take her wherever they wished. And then, among the crowd, she saw the familiar figure once more. Charlie stood beside a large Christmas tree, watching people who were taking photos, laughing, and soaking in the holiday atmosphere. He noticed Emma almost immediately, as if he had sensed her presence beforehand. Their gazes met, and a quiet spark lit between them. No words were necessary. They simply ended up next to each other, as though that was exactly where they were meant to be. The city, filled with bright lights, seemed like a backdrop to the calmness that grew between them. They walked along decorated streets, looking at displays, listening to the soft music drifting from the festive stalls. With each step, Emma felt her heart filling with warmth, and the winter evening becoming something more than just a walk. Charlie pointed out the small details: knitted scarves at the market, snowman figures, street lamps whose lights shimmered in the snowbanks. He seemed able to notice everything that usually got lost in daily haste. It surprised her, making her see the city with new eyes. Time seemed to stretch, becoming endlessly gentle. Emma didn't realize when their walks became a habit. They began meeting more and more often, without arranging anything beforehand. Each meeting was accidental, yet a hidden pattern had begun to reveal itself. And the closer New Year's Day came, the more strongly Emma felt that something fragile and beautiful was forming between them. The last day of December arrived as quietly as the first snowfall. The city prepared for the holiday. People rushed through stores, children rode sleds, and adults wrapped themselves in warm coats. Everywhere were greetings, music, and laughter. Emma decided to take a walk through the evening city to catch the atmosphere of the final hours of the departing year. She walked down a street filled with the aroma of hot chocolate, roasted nuts, and pine. On the central square, people were already gathering, wanting to greet the new year surrounded by lights and fireworks. She didn't know if she would see Charlie today, but her desire to see him was so strong that her heart stirred at the very thought. And when she approached the square, she saw him standing in the crowd, slightly aside from the busiest paths, as though he had chosen the one spot where she would notice him most easily. Their eyes met again, this time steadily, like two halves of a single moment finally finding each other. Emma walked up to him, feeling the world around them dissolve into the soft glow of garlands. Charlie tilted his head slightly in greeting silent, yet his eyes said more than any festive words. They stood together, watching the lights shimmer in the cool evening air. People around them laughed, hugged, and waited for the clock to strike midnight. Emma felt the whole world shrink to one small space, the one where she and Charlie stood. When the first chime echoed over the square, a solemn pause settled in the air. Each strike felt like a warm pulse in her chest, counting down the moments until something new began. Emma listened to the rhythm of the chimes, her breath blending with the breath of the city. At the final strike, Charlie slowly turned to her. Their eyes met once more, but now there was more than recognition in them. There was a promise, quiet, tender, invisible to the rest of the world, yet absolutely clear to them both. Emma felt her heart pause in anticipation. Charlie stepped closer, shrinking the distance between them to an almost imperceptible boundary. And at the very moment when the first fireworks shot into the sky, their lips met in a soft, trembling, almost fairy tale kiss. The world flared with lights, but for them only this brief, endless touch existed. The new year began with warmth, tenderness, and a feeling just beginning to unfold. When they pulled away, Emma saw in Charlie's eyes the very magic she had been searching for all her life. They stood surrounded by the cheerful holiday crowd, and yet it felt as if the city had fallen silent, leaving them alone with a new beginning. That night, chance became destiny.